I do not see the death penalty or carrying out the death penalty as an asset for corrections. It is really a far cry from what most corrections professionals are about.
Working as a prosecutor, you wonder, are we really applying the death penalty to the worst of the worst? Or are we applying it to the poorest of the poor?
It's the ultimate penalty. It's a matter of life and death. That makes a capital case profoundly different from any other case.
I'm much more strongly opposed to it than ever because the system, the capital punishment system, doesn't work.
When you look at the amount of money we have to spend, we just put them in prison the rest of their lives. We would save millions and millions of dollars that we spend just for executing.
I didn't turn against the death penalty overnight, but it was gradual. But I wanted to support it because I thought that Republicans, conservatives, that's what you did. And that's not true.
I know that we can do better than the death penalty. It's taking our eye off what we need to be focused on, which is the root causes of violent crime.
I'm fighting against the death penalty because what happened to me has happened to hundreds of people in this country. As long as there's a death penalty, innocent people are going to be executed. Bottom line.
The vast majority of defendants who are sitting on death row were unable to hire their own lawyer at the time of their trial.
We see people who are poor and unable to hire adequate defense, disproportionately affected by the death penalty.
When you think of justice, it ought to be applied across the board. But when you see the death penalty applied to people who live in poverty, who don't have the resources, people who may be struggling with mental health issues, then it affects all of us.
In my experience, every single inmate that I've represented has suffered from a diagnosed mental disorder.
We see geography impacting this system. In the state of Tennessee, nearly 40% of our death row here comes from one county. That's Shelby County. When half of the counties in the state of Tennessee have never even sent anyone to death row.
And we know within the black community that there are a lot of people who have been on death row, who have been wrongly convicted.
If it's biased against racial minorities, if it's biased against the poor, to the extent that it's not administered fairly, then I have a problem with that on constitutional grounds.
I'm opposed to the death penalty because what happens if we make a mistake?
To date, 143 people have been released from death rows across this country when evidence of their innocence came to light. In Tennessee, we've had 4 people who have been wrongfully convicted.
If you look at innocent people that may have been wrongfully convicted, it's hard to say that's justice.
For roughly every 10 executions we've had to release someone because we got it wrong. And those are the people that we figured out in time.
If nothing else, I think that people should be against the death penalty based on the fact that you know it's going to kill innocent people. As long as you have it, it's going to kill innocent people.
Because it's a human institution, mistakes are going to be made. And when you are talking about something like death, like taking a human life, you have to be 100% accurate.
I was wrongly convicted of murder and sentenced to death for a crime in a city that I had never been to. A grocery store owner was killed during an attempted robbery. The crime was committed in 1983 in Memphis, Tennessee. I was born and raised in the city of St. Louis, Missouri, and had never even been in the state of Tennessee until I was actually brought to Memphis in handcuffs and put on trial for this crime 2 years after it happened. On the day the crime happened, we was up with my mom just celebrating her birthday, so that's where I was in St. Louis at the time. It was never explained how and why I became a suspect. When I was arrested and brought to Memphis to stand trial, I didn't believe that I would even be convicted of a trial, even though that I was sitting as a young black male before an all-white jury being accused of killing a white store owner in the South. I still didn't believe that I would be convicted for a crime I had committed. They offered me a 25-year sentence, and I refused to take the 25-year sentence because I wasn't going to plead guilty to a crime that I hadn't committed. It took the jury less than 2 hours to come back with this guilty verdict. The same jury was the ones that decided my sentence. It took them even less time to come back with this verdict of, wanting to put me to death. If these attorneys had not been on my case, I would probably not be sitting there right now. I'd probably would have been executed or certainly slated to be executed. It took a lot of good people on my behalf that actually made that work, especially my wife. I sit here despite the system, not because the system actually works. I mean, they wanted to murder me, basically. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't have no doubt about that.